Jeff Weaver on DNC debate rules said to now change the rules in the middle of the game to accommodate Mike Bloomberg, who is trying to buy his way into the Democratic nomination, is wrong. That's the definition of a rigged system, Weaver said. This comes as fear is growing among some Democrats that Bernie Sanders might win the nomination. Politico reports a small group of DNC members have begun discussing a proposal to increase the role of superdelegates to give the party establishment more say in who becomes the nominee. We go now to Des Moines, Iowa, where we're joined by John Nichols, the nation's national affairs correspondent, host of the podcast Next Left. He's on the ground covering the Iowa caucus, just wrote the piece, "The DNC's Move to Accommodate Bloomberg Stirs Outrage in Iowa." His forthcoming book, The Fight for the Soul of the Democratic Party, The Enduring Legacy of Henry Wallace's Anti-Fascist, Anti-Racist Politics. John, it's great to have you on the ground in Iowa. So talk about this latest move of the DNC, the changing of the rules for who can participate in the debate.
Yes, the DNC set up some pretty strict rules last year. And there was a structure to it, but essentially you had to have a little bit of pole position, and then you had to raise a substantial number of small contributions in order to get on the debate stage. And with each step of the process, they raised the number of contributions you needed and also raised the threshold for polls. That was what all the candidates who got in earlier last year, accepted. It's what they dealt with. Sometimes they complained about it, but those were the rules. Now suddenly, on Friday, the DNC signaled that they want to get rid of the small donor rules and set a couple of poll thresholds around 10%. Or to say, if you got delegates in Iowa or New Hampshire, that you have to meet one of those standards to get into the Nevada debate and the debates going forward. Well, what's interesting about that is that in the past, when climate activists asked for a climate debate, they were told, well, you can't, that's not within the rules. When folks who wanted a poverty debate asked for a poverty debate, they said, no, you can't, that's not in the rules. When Cory Booker really challenged this process and said, look, you're going to end up with the potential of all-white debates in a party that has relied very heavily on African-American and Latino support, again, he was told, you can't change the rules. But now suddenly, they've changed the rules in a way that a lot of activists, and frankly other candidates, believe benefits Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York, who got in the race late and who is skipping Iowa and New Hampshire in the early contests. And there's a tremendous amount of frustration with this because to an awful lot of folks, it looks like the rules are being changed to accommodate a billionaire, especially at a point when one candidate, Bernie Sanders, who's been campaigning against the billionaire class, seems to be rising. I
want to turn to Oscar-winning filmmaker, activist Michael Moore, speaking at a Bernie Sanders rally Friday night.
The fact that I'd have to wake up this morning and realize that we have to fight the corporate Democrats, the 1% of the Democratic Party who are thoroughly that Bernie Sanders is now number one, that Bernie Sanders might win this primary season, that Bernie Sanders might be the next president of the United States. They're so upset. They're like asking each other, how the hell did this happen? Bernie wasn't supposed to win. And so today they announced in this Hail Mary pass of theirs to try to undo the people's movement. They are removing the rule to be on the debate stage where it says you have to have so many people donating to you. Otherwise, instead of 27 people on the stage, there'd be 227 people on the stage. So you had to have a certain number of Americans that would give you a buck. That's all the rule said. But it would to show that there's support. And that's how they determined who would be on that debate stage. Today, they removed that rule because Mike Bloomberg, the billionaire, the Republican mayor of New York City, they're backstage going, oh God, what's he going to say? moved it so that he could be in the next debate. He doesn't have to show he has any support amongst the American people. He can just buy his way onto the debate stage. And I got to tell you what's so disgusting about this. I watched the debate in Iowa here 2 weeks ago. The all-white debate. And the fact that the DNC will not allow Cory Booker on that stage, will not allow Julian Castro on that stage, but they're going to allow Mike Bloomberg on the stage because he's got $1 billion.
So that's Michael Moore speaking on Friday night in Clive, Iowa. The next night was the massive rally in Cedar Rapids of thousands. John, you were at both. Talk about his point and these rallies, the significance of what's happening and we don't usually cite polls, but right now it does look like Bernie Sanders is at the top.
Yeah, I mean, there's an incredible enthusiasm in Iowa, and also there's an incredible depth of awareness of the race. And so you saw at that rally, the mention of the DNC rule change, which maybe a lot of folks around America aren't following all that closely. In Iowa, it was not just a line that drew passionate responses. I mean, literally sustained booing and, angry responses. Is indicative of how seriously the people are taking this race and how seriously the Sanders people are. Sanders is running very well. I would always caution, and I know you sort of referenced it a moment ago, that polling of the Iowa caucuses is really hard because of the dynamics of the caucuses. So be very cautious about saying who's up or who's in front. But it's clear that Bernie Sanders is going to do very, very well here, and he could win. And the enthusiasm that's built up, you see it at those rallies, of course, and the rally in Cedar Rapids with the band Vampire Weekend just drew a massive crowd. And there are a lot of other speakers. Sanders spoke, but also Cornel West and others. The rally in Clive that you saw with Bon Iver, a very popular singer and very popular band, also